Did you get a chance to go through that house that
Oh, yeah, the one over Francis or
Janet's for?
Oh, yes, I did. No, my wife.
Hi, Bob. I know, that's what, yeah.
It's like it is 60,000 less than I think it was.
Right.
Here's my problem.
Yeah, it's even.
I just,
I had. Yeah.
I like having it's, we gotta have it.
Just that. Yeah.
I would miss that.
Yeah. I get it.
It's like everything nice and then the garage and everything.
Oh, my God. That's huge.
Back to the thing, I just like to manage. Maybe I wouldn't need the fan.
Right, yeah, you can just go out there, eat it.
You know.
Hi, Brian.
How you doing, Ed?
Doing pretty well. Hi, Donna. Yeah. How was it?
Yeah, how was it?
We didn't stay. We went somewhere else. They were so backed up, and
They were slow.
I can't get any help.
We got there. I got there.
10:15. And you were just getting out of there when we left.
We probably got our food. On the block, came a little later. We ordered his food when we got our food. He didn't get it.
Yeah, I know. I've been eating at Penny's Diner. They, the same thing. They can't get help. We went over to Ruby Tuesdays, and they were backed up. And finally, the young waitress said, "Would you like to go through the salad bar for free? We're so far behind." And I said, "Well, I'm already paying for mine, so I'll take a cup of coffee." So she gave me a cup of coffee. But, you know, Brian, you don't have babies, you don't have people to fill the job. It's serious stuff. You know, I saw a survey the other day that Pew Research did. Maybe I told you this. Surveyed from 19 to 39. Never have children. We're talking about an economic lapse. No babies, no new shoes, no new jeans, no school supplies.
It'll be interesting.
Oh boy, I think we got some real interesting stuff ahead of us. I think of all these debts that are piled up and who's going to pay them.
Very true.
Well, hi, Brandon.
Sorry, everybody. I clearly need to fix the battery in my office light.
I will forgive you. Just this once, of course.
Just this once.
Okay, good evening or good afternoon, everyone. Apologize for starting a couple of minutes late. Today is Monday, August 19th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. and we are here in the council chambers. Officially, let's see, calling the meeting officially to order. Roll call.
Tryon,
Here.
Bowles,
Here.
Lucas,
Here.
Gary,
Here.
Here. Here. I think he's here, but he's not here.
Here.
So
Okay.
Mark's coffee cup.
There he is.
He's here.
There he comes. Okay. We were worried you'd lost your coffee cup there, Mark, so. Okay, Open Meetings Act. Current copy of the Open Meetings Act of the state of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. excuse me. As this is a budget work session, no formal vote or action will be taken at this meeting. I repeat, no formal vote or action will be taken at this meeting. And we will proceed with the agenda, which is pretty straightforward tonight. Item 1 is discussion on the 2024-2025 City of North Platte budget. We have several entities here that our community works with, and they make requests to make various things happen across the community, and they like the opportunity to tell us a little bit about what they're going to do in the coming year and make any comments on their organization they would like to. The first one I have is LCCDC. Anybody? And they were unable to make it tonight. Thank you, Lane. Next, Nebraska Land Days.
Bob Lantis, Executive Director, Nebraska Land Days. I just want to tell the City Council thank you for all your support. I want to say all the departments of the city, thank you for your support. You guys do a lot of things for us during celebration and the off season as well. So we had another great year this year. Attendance for both nights of concerts was somewhere around that 18,000 mark, and then probably around the 10 to 11,000 mark for 4 nights of rodeo. And so attendance was good. Already planning for this upcoming year, 2025. As you guys maybe know, we've announced one of our Friday night concert acts, Luke Bryan, will be on Friday. In about another 30 days, we'll announce our second act, Saturday night, hopefully towards the end of September. So we're kind of off and running. Again, we're requesting again this year from the city $11,250 in funds to help promote our organization and bring people to town to increase economic revenue to the city of North Platte. So I would answer any questions if anybody has any. Otherwise, thank you guys. I appreciate your consideration. So,
Any questions?
I just wanted to point out this is Bob's first time coming up here. It's kind of nice to listen to you speak as opposed to fudge. Thank you, Bob.
thank you.
I got questions.
Oh, hold on.
What do you guys make generally when it's all said and done?
Well, it depends year over year.
Yeah,
Right.
I understand.
I can tell you that in the last 4 to 5 years, we've been very successful. North of net of 100,000 for about the last 5 years, right? Take into consideration, we reinvest most of that money on an annual basis into our facilities. Last year, we completed the project of a rodeo production building that sits on the west side of the arena there. We've made several improvements over the last couple of years. We put up a VIP building. And so every year we try to pick a rather large project to take those funds and reinvest them in. A couple of our projects coming up in the next 2 to 3 years. We're hopeful to get something done as far as ADA improvements to our entire facility. Every year we kind of get a little bit of a black eye because we don't have the best amenities for ADA capabilities, right? Our grandstands were built in the 70s before any ADA requirements existed. So what our goal is for this upcoming year is to evaluate some sort of a project that we can make that area in the grandstands a little bit better, a little bigger. So we're looking at that. We're going to try to redo our concession stand this year, bring it a little bit more up to code, do some updated windows and things like that. So we've been very fortunate in the last 3 to 5 years to, bring in some decent sized revenue. Now I can tell you that historically, I was on the board 10 years ago and we were broke. We had zero money. And so it feels good to, kind of have some good years, but we know that it only takes 1 or 2 bad years to sink that ship and you be in a situation where you don't have anything. So we're pretty fortunate to this point. Hopefully we can continue to do that and continue to make facility improvements that enhance the experience for our patrons at Nebraska Land Days.
Yeah, I was out there this year. I mean, it's looking nicer all the time. You guys have done a good job.
Yeah, we've got probably our next big project is a crow's nest. I mean, besides the ADA improvements to the grandstands, the crow's nest is something that's, you know, you look around out there, it's kind of the sore thumb that sticks out. And so that's probably our next project. That thing is kind of needs to go and be rebuilt
I
anyway.
don't know what you're talking about.
Crow's nest is right above the bucking chutes for the rodeo.
Okay,
Yep. That big white box
Yeah.
sits up in the sky.
I got you.
So, any other questions?
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the list, I have Keep North Platte, Lincoln County Beautiful.
I'm Mona Anderson. I'm with Keep North Platte, Lincoln County Beautiful. I've been executive director for last 13 years, working on 14 here in about another month. So some of the things that Keep North Platte, Lincoln County Beautiful do for the community, we partner a lot with the city. So a big thanks to all of those employees who help us out and we help them out throughout the year. So we kind of have a really good partnership in keeping our community clean, green, beautiful. So the pillars that we have are cleanups, beautification, recycling. Those are the three main ones. We do rural road cleanups. This year, we did 320 miles of rural roads, 7,180 pounds of trash picked up off of those rural roads. So that's kind of the, some of those are in North Platte and then surrounding North Platte. We did Canteen District cleanup, Phi Theta Kappa did out near the college, Original Town, Buffalo Bill Manor. And then we also had, this was the first time that we did a homeless camp cleanup and also a, along the river and a illegal dump site. So, and that was over a ton of trash that we picked up from that area. Our education, we do environmental club with Kids Club. But on top of that, we also do all of the education for the recycling program here in the community. So we do a media campaign. We have a website, and the city's website is then attached to our website. So they can go on there and find out all the recycling information. That's all been redone this year, along with the new bins. So, we're super excited about those bins, by the way. They look nice, they're easy to use. And if you ever look across the street or just sit there for 5 minutes, you'll see it's a constant flow of traffic over there. I had to meet a lady over there last week, and I saw at least 10 people stop through this site just across the street. So it's wonderful to see that people are taking advantage and using the recycling bins. Also saves the city money by not having to take it out to the transfer station and then haul it all the way to Ogallala. So also have that cost savings there. Our beautification, we did get 10 free trees again this year that we will be planting. Did some work on a couple of parking lots near downtown area, just planting flowers, making sure that those areas are cleaned up. We are asking for $15,000. That goes for our grant matching. So we're mainly funded from the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy, non-tax dollars. It's a fee-based fund the NDE collects, and then those are passed back to the communities. So that's how our funding comes to us. However, we have to prove that we're going to match those funds. So we get about $150,000 every year from NDE, and then we use these funds to match, show that we're also serious about keeping our community clean and waste diversion. So those are kind of some of the things that we do. Again, we want to thank you immensely for the support. We work a lot with Steve Metzer, Lyle, Jim Parker, just on different projects, and they're always so willing to help out and make sure that those projects get completed. So, does anybody have any questions?
Ty, go ahead.
I don't know if these are for Mona or for Lane or for both, but one are occasionally I hear from people that they have a hard time. The recycling bins are full a lot. Are we keeping up with that pretty well, or what is that?
I would say a lot of that is not our side of it as far as delivering. It's the capacity at the recycling center when they can and cannot take those things. So that's what we're probably running into more than anything. Weekends get a little tough because the cardboard especially gets full, but we try to be pretty responsive. We check those on a daily basis, try and get them delivered, but sometimes the recycling center, it doesn't have the capacity to take them on that certain time.
Yeah, I've noticed she's right. They're busy, but I notice sometimes it's probably Sunday afternoons when I'm there, so that's probably a time that they're naturally busy.
I'll tell you, I've left here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, and the cardboard bin out here is practically empty. Come back on Sunday, and it's nearly full to try to put cardboard in. So it's a heavily used one.
Yeah, it seems like people responded well to those. The other topic I want to bring up just for a second is, I know I-80 is something that's been talked about before, the corridor, the interchange, and I wondered it doesn't look bad. Every once in a while it gets kind of tall with weeds. But I've wondered if there's ideas out there what it would take for some kind of beautification process on the actual right where the highway and the interstate cross. And is that state land and controlled, or how does all that work?
I'll let Mona talk about that a little bit because that's kind of her pet project that she could give a little more insight that we can't do what we'd like to do.
So I have done a lot of research on that because I would love to do something out on that interchange. There is some federal money that could come down to the state to help out with projects for interstate corridor beautification projects. Sydney did get one, I want to say. They put just a sign up. It wasn't much, but they did get a little funding for that. Casper, Wyoming is probably one that has done it successfully. It is a long-term planning project, getting all of your ducks in a row and all the plans to turn that in, and then trying to get the state on board is the other thing that you have to worry about. But when you look at Colorado and you go through and you see like the stamped, decor on their interchange bridges or whatever, that's where that money comes from. It's a federal money that comes down into the state, and then they can use it for those projects. It's just getting all of that in the process. We couldn't just go and plant something, or we have to go through that process and get state approval. And then if they decide that they wanted to get federal money, then to bring back. And it's a matching for the state as well. So the federal government would pay 25% or whatever it is, and then the state would have to pay the additional 75%, which I think at this point, I'm not the only one that's thought this. I think that there haven't been willing maybe to do that. But imagine what that would do for our community and bringing people here, and the view that they would have of where they're coming. I always say that, when you're driving through those corridors through our community and you see it's clean, that there's things planted, you feel safe, you want to come, you want to stay here, you want to put a business here, and you want to come back. So I would love to have a project on the interstate. I think at this point, though, there's so much red tape that I couldn't do that on my own.
Do they control the mowing frequency the state does?
I think so. Mhm.
So if it's 3 foot tall the week before Nebraska Land Days, that's on the state. Huh?
That's on the state. That's I think they contract that out. So if somebody did complain, they could probably get that contractor out to do it, but it would take a complaint.
That's good to know how that works. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This might be more for links. I know we talked about it some time ago, but is there a chance that glass could be recycled? I know it weighs a ton, and that's the problem.
Mona and I worked together on that with Steve and Tony and stuff, and just right now, part of it's more the shipping cost because of the weight of it. There's no money in it, so it's a negative to get the glass recycled. But we'll continue to look at those options as they become available. But
I think
that's a big demand for glass recycling. It just
I think there's a facility north of Ogallala that maybe does some kind of
So we have had
recycling.
this discussion about putting a different site up for a glass recycling bin. And there is a gentleman from Kimball who actually picks up from Ogallala, from WRG, and then hauls that glass to Colorado. And I think he could possibly might do that, but I think there would be a fee associated with that. If we just had one roll off or something that was placed away from the rest of the recycling bins, because if glass gets into our regular recycling, it makes it worthless.
Yeah.
So you can imagine if glass gets in with the paper and they go take it to recycle toilet paper and then, to make toilet paper out of it, and then you use that's not a good deal. So they don't like glass in there in any other recycling. So if we could maybe get a different site, it's just the cost aspect of it.
Contamination of it.
The contamination and then the cost.
Sure.
So
Okay.
we have looked into it quite a bit, and we think we might have a hauling outlet. It's just, he would have to come from Kimball. He goes up north anyway, Thedford, I think. That he could possibly pick that up. It would just cost for that transportation.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes.
Ed?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I understand that right now we've changed what we're doing with some of our cardboard. And I think maybe some of it's going to land application locally.
that's something we're working on, Ed. I mean, it's not what we're doing. We've taken some contaminated cardboard and put it mixed it with our tree waste, but that's not on a normal basis. It's an option.
Okay. Well, it seems to me like if we could further that program, that'd do two things. It's going to help the consumer, not the consumer of the cardboard, and possibly we could get some money out of it. But I think there's just some natural organic benefits to using cardboard in some of the farm ground around here, and I think that would be an excellent use for that. I've wondered for a long time why that couldn't be mixed with just some of the manure sources that we have here and spread back out on the land. And I don't know whether there's a market for cardboard, but it might
There's
be
probably not a market for cardboard specifically for composting, but if we grind the cardboard and mix it in with the yard waste, it does become a good source for the composter that comes to get that. So that is a good source for them to, and then they take it and mix it with the manure, and then they use it for soil amendment. So
Right.
it is a good, we may increase that. I would like to see that increased a little bit. So instead of having a mound of cardboard laying around, that's not baled or whatever, that it could be taken out to the transfer station ground and used that way.
Well, I'm glad you're looking into that. I really think that from an environmental standpoint, that's, I guess, the buzzword. It makes a lot more sense to land apply it than haul it somewhere else. So
Right.
anyway, thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona.
Yep.
Okay, do we have a representative from Legion Baseball? I thought so. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Colton Albrecht, the Legion Board President. Over the last couple of years, a couple of the bigger projects that we've been working on have been The backstop, we updated our backstop system with concrete and a new netting system. We're also working on a new bathroom, relocating our bathroom. Our current bathroom situation is an older building that's been around since probably the 50s, maybe 60s, some point in that time frame. So that's something we're working on currently. We've got a lot of other projects that we want to work on, but those are the two big ones that we're primarily working on. This is our first time asking. We're going to ask for $10,000 from the city to help kind of just maintain the field with not only the high school programs now having teams, the Plainsmen coming in, and now the 80s. We've just got more people using our field. So it takes a little bit more dirt, more chalk, toilet paper, paper towels, those kind of things just to kind of maintain the field. And as the Legion program is kind of the master agreement, they kind of just take care of the field. They've always taken care of the field. The city helps mow and do some of those items, but we've always just been at the forefront of those projects or those bill items. So those are the things that we're kind of use that money towards so that we can continue to raise funds to not only update our bathrooms, but, you know, field turf, new facility for batting cages, those kind of things. Any questions on that?
Donna?
I went to one game out there, I don't know, maybe it's been a couple summers ago, but how many games per season do you have? And is there an admission? And if so, how much? And is there are you making some profit that you're putting back into it?
Yeah.
And if so, how much?
Yeah, so the Legion averages about 15 to 20 games a year. The admission for an adult would be $6. And then we take a lot of that money, we pay our coaches, we pay for, you know, like I said, the dirt and all this other things that we have that come down on our budget. Any initial upgrades that we have, we take, you know, any profit that we would have from gate money. With the players, they're able to sell tickets that are passes. So a lot of these funds that we raise, they go back into uniforms, you know, any bills that we may have, we try to use that to kind of offset some of those costs. We also have, you know, the 80s, they bring in their own teams. So there's a lot more usage of that field. So then there's a lot more dirt and infield turfs that we would need to buy.
Okay, thank you.
How many games did the 80s play on that field? And then the high schools, I know the high school will be new this last year.
Yeah, so with North Platte High School coming in later to their process, they only had one home game. Now that'll flip. They'll have about 10, I think, on their home schedule this year. The 80s, they ended up playing, I think it was 24. I don't know the rain out dates, but I think they had scheduled for 24 dates. So yeah, I mean, if we're talking 20 for us and 24 for them, and then you add another 10 or so, that's a lot of usage on that field, especially you know, in the summer months where it's kind of hot out and a lot of wear and tear on the grass. And so there's a lot of stuff. Our board especially has been looking into the process of turf. And so just if we could help kind of mitigate some of those costs that we have currently, that'd be huge.
With all the teams using it, it seems to me that they should help with all the maintenance of the field. I don't feel that that's a taxpayer expense. I really don't see it the taxpayer should pay for this at all, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a business operation, and, you know, you could raise a little, and I think the teams should pay a little more. The schools using your field,
Sure.
they should be paying.
It's a city-owned field.
Yeah.
So the money that we're asking is to help just take some off of our, because currently there's no line item budget for the city. As you know, you've already looked through it. So we don't have a budget at Billwood Field to pay for a turf guy. You guys don't pay for the turf, the dirt. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this that not only does the city not take care of, but it falls back onto another organization like the Legion Baseball. So if you feel that it's not in the taxpayers' money to donate that money or give it to us, that's fine. But then we can also go back and say, you know, we'll just find somewhere else to play, and that field could go downhill. And there's a lot of history there. We want to keep using it. We want to keep beautifying it. So I understand where you're coming from, because I have the same
Yeah,
conversation.
okay. I kind of take that we can go play somewhere else.
Yeah,
It's a little off. If you ask the men around this table, I'll bet you could raise most of this money just in contributions. I think if you ask the citizens, you know, I think you could probably raise this.
I don't disagree with you that we could. We also raise a lot of money on our own anyway, that we've done a lot of projects with. We just, like I said, we just did the backstop with new concrete and new netting. We didn't get any help from anyone. We raised the money. We did all that. We had a grant to come on some of it, but we did raise over $100,000 on it. So I don't disagree with you, but we're just asking for a little more help with more teams playing on this field.
Well, it's admirable what you've done. Sitting up here, though, you know,
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
looking out for the citizens.
Sure.
And I'm not saying you guys
I
aren't
I understand what you're saying.
doing a lot.
I think the looking out for the citizens, it could cost them a lot more than just $10,000.
Anyone else have a question? Ed?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along those lines, is the school paying anything to use the field?
We didn't ask the school to pay anything this last year, just because they didn't have many games. They had one game, and they were bringing in, I think Nebraska came in and did the food and all that stuff for them at that time. So we said, you know what, this is only one game. You know, and at that time, we didn't have a lot of our facilities ready to go. You know, the bathrooms weren't ready to go, things of that nature. So no, we didn't at that point, no.
Do they practice there also?
Correct. Yep.
I guess it would seem to me that, especially with the school, they should be paying part of the freight on that.
Sure. And that's part of the conversation that we may go to them on. We just haven't approached them yet as far as asking per se for that. We just haven't come to an agreement with them this year, and that conversation hasn't been had.
I'd encourage you to have it. I think we've had similar conversations on the use of the rec center.
Sure.
And I think if the school's going to use it, then they should foot part of the bill.
Yeah.
And as far as the commercial teams, are they putting anything back into the field at all monetarily?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that they do help with, and they use our equipment, they use our chalk and all that stuff, and the turf that we buy, they use all that turfus. But no, they do not give us any monetary money at this point.
Seems like they should.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And again,
Yeah.
it's an agreement that would have to be had with the city. It's not a agreement that I have any control
Hey,
over.
guys, just for the sake of clarity, the Plainsmen in the 80s were both charged a per game fee to use the field, and that money comes to the city.
Which goes to the Legion to
The money comes,
maintain the fields.
it just comes into
Where
the
does it
city.
go then?
It was used into the Parks Department to help pay for gas and mowing and things like that.
And the lighting bill.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
that's kind of where we came up with that per game fee, is mainly to cover the lighting bill for the most part, because there's additional lighting that wasn't used in the past.
When does that come up for renegotiation again?
We did like a 3-year contract, I think, with
That's what I
them.
had in my head. I wasn't sure though.
Is the school also paying an agreement with the city?
Not for baseball at this point.
Because it seems like they should be helping you out a little more with,
Yeah.
with the field maintenance. To
As
me,
far,
it just seems fair.
as far as the lighting, are our lights pretty much up to date, or?
We're slowly transitioning those to LED fixtures, but it's as the old ones go bad, because to do it all at once is pretty
Pretty
pricey. But
expensive,
it
yeah.
hopefully will pay off in the long run. That's one of the things that we'll have talking about tomorrow night.
Okay.
Other questions? Oh, sorry, Brian, go ahead.
So how's the attendance going? I mean, now that you brought 80s in, everything else, is it on track to where you want? I mean, obviously we would like to have it full. but
Yeah.
how's that going?
I can't speak to the 80s. I know that the few games that I went to, there wasn't as many fans per se that we do have our home games. The Legion averages, granted it's high school teams, but I would say 200-300 people a night. So we average a pretty good. And I know Pete was big on the shade structure that you guys put in there, and that's been huge. A lot of people have been very grateful of that. So that's another, key piece added to just upgrading our facility. Like I said, our facility's been around since, the 50s and 60s, and there hasn't been a lot done to it. So on average, I would say we were about, a couple hundred per game. But I know the 80s, once that shade got put in, their structure or their visitors did start coming in a little bit more too. So their attendance did start bringing it, go up.
Thank you.
Brad?
So this is the first request you guys have done to ask the city for this specific type of a monetary donation, correct?
Yep.
Okay. How many years have you guys been out there? Do you know off the top of your head?
The Legion baseball?
Correct.
Not off the top of my head. I would say since the early 50s, late 40s, somewhere in that. I mean, we've been a part of Bill Wood Field for quite a long time.
So 70 some years
Yeah.
roughly.
Yep.
So you made it 70 years, and this is the first time you've asked. So good on you guys for doing this. I would encourage you, along with my colleagues, to go to the school and see if they can help out with some of this. I don't have a problem helping out. You guys have done a fantastic job out there. So just appreciate all the work that you do.
Yep. Absolutely.
Hi.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to add that, the field, it's always been taken care of, but it's really deteriorated versus a modern experience, whether that's the bathrooms, the concession stands. And to see the pendulum swinging the other way the last few years, I think it's tremendous. I mean, if you go out there to a game today versus 4 years ago, the shade structure, that deck's been built, which I think the plane's been put up, right? And just the park is just moving, it was like something that was still being taken care of by the Parks Department and by the Legion Board, but just kind of hanging on by a thread. Well, now they're putting real money back into things where it can continue. It's one of only a few, isn't there 3 or 4 of those original ballparks left in the state?
Sherman and Hastings.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful ballpark. And, we support a lot of other sports, whether that be tennis, soccer, softball, Little League baseball, and all that. I have no problems with giving them the money as long as we can keep it going back into those facilities, having it improve. It's still one of the low-cost forms of family entertainment, and North Platte's always been a baseball and softball town. It's always been one of the sports that we've been the best at, and so we have the Keno money coming in, and we have other revenue sources that the money that comes through the park system, and so I know that the amount they're asking for probably doesn't make our budget or break it, but I think to me it's a nice collaboration with everybody else who's putting money into it, and we should also hit up the schools and everybody else for what you can. But I don't think anybody's getting rich out there. I mean, I think it's just kind of hanging
This
on.
isn't. Yeah, I would agree with Ty. Our game plan for all of this is to come to you guys first, and then just start going down the line and having our conversations. Just kind of do our due diligence as far as the schools, the Plainsmen or ADs, and those things. We just wanted to get this process started so that we could make sure that what we have planned for future, whether it's field turf or updated concession stands, that we could just maybe, like I said, mitigate some of the costs that we have currently with what we're trying to do out there, and some of the costs I feel as times may not be ours. So
In relationship to the Plainsmen themselves and with their national connections, is there any opportunity for them to get equipment for our ball players?
not for the local high school ball
I'm
players, I
thinking
wouldn't
about
say.
more for the Legion.
Yeah, we have never had that conversation with them. It's pretty tough to have that conversation with someone who's not necessarily local. Andrew does a really good job, and I know he does well with what he's doing, but he's got, I think, 20 other teams that he's trying to manage and stuff. So it's pretty tough for him to add another team to his plate for sure.
I just was thinking that they may have access to some equipment from other teams that maybe is not being used anymore, that maybe the Legion could use
Yeah,
instead of buying new
possibly.
material.
Some big differences would be the bats. They use wood bats. We do not. So there'd just be some stuff there. The baseballs are always different too. We have a Legion baseball that we have to use, where there's our more Major League Baseball style baseballs. So there's just some differences that we could use for practices, and that would help maybe cut that cost down. But
Right.
wouldn't be able to use them for our games for sure.
Well, thanks for what you're doing.
Yep, appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, Chamber Devco. Oh, he brought materials.
Nothing like visuals, right? As long as I didn't get it upside down.
Looks okay.
Did good.
Pass those. Yep. So what I'm passing out here is just a front and back. It says the same thing this billboard does. It's a little hard to see, but I think of course, I probably should introduce myself. Gary Pearson, President, North Platte Area Chamber Development Corporation, Mayor and council members. It's always a good time of year get to come and talk to you, and number one, to thank you for your partnership. If it wasn't for all of us working together, we wouldn't have got to where we are today. And I think this 5-year strategic plan that we put together back in 2020, and then have COVID blow up our world at the same time, it did allow us to do some really strategic good planning and get some things in place. But no plan, as you well know, and no study, as you've witnessed before, is ever effective unless you implement it and you make it a living, active document. And you can see all the check marks on this. We put this together in 2020. We have this staring in everybody's face at every meeting we have over at Chamber Development Corporation in our boardroom. So everybody revisits those ideas every day, every time they're at a meeting there. And so 5 different categories. We put together 29 specific goals to get accomplished in a 5-year plan of action. So we're nearing the home stretch on this to get everything done, but we feel really good about where we position the community and where we're going. And I think you see evidence of that every single day driving around North Platte and Lincoln County. Those projects would not have happened if we hadn't worked together, and some of them were a lot bigger struggle than others, but we've pulled off some pretty major things. And you look at twice during that time frame, we've been named the Economic Development Community of the Year statewide. 531 communities in our state, 1 gets honored. This year, in fact, at the Diplomats, 2. We didn't share it with anybody. That's because, the evidence was there. We've been now a strategic talking point for people across the state. We get calls and emails, phone calls and visitors and groups coming in, wanting to know the formula of revitalizing a community and making it work. You drive downtown, you drive by the former mall, you see out the interstate, all development going forward, sustainable beef, and soon we'll be having people talk about the industrial rail park in the same manner. And we've worked long and hard on that. It's been an uphill struggle and battle at times, but we're getting there. We now own all the land. We have annexed it into the village of Hershey. We're doing some other planning things to plan for infrastructure going in. We secured a $30 million grant on that. We got a lot of partners on that. We're going to focus our energy and attention on value-added agriculture. That's the value, the wealth that we create in Lincoln County, and we could keep it home and help make our farmers and ranchers more profitable, just like we've shown through the Sustainable Beef Project, that homegrown project. Bunch of ranchers that took it upon themselves. And if we wouldn't have been a willing and community that partnered up with them and went through all the educational process. In fact, here's the key thing about that whole thing. 4 years ago today, that's when we had our very first meeting with them. Group of folks came in, and we had to keep it very under wraps. I could only take 3 additional people with me. Brent Berkland was one of those because we needed an engineer that understood things, and we didn't know for sure who we were even going to be talking to when we walked in the door, other than the one local retired banker who is very involved in the community, Greg Wilkie, who kind of facilitated that whole conversation moving forward. So from that, we built trust, and we showed them the things that we could do if they decided to make North Platte their home, and it became a partnership. But that was a heavy lift. And it's at a time where you knew at some point some aspects of it was going to be controversial. But that's what we do in the economic development world. We're a facilitator. We gather the information. People trust us to be confidential about it. A lot of projects you'll never hear about that we work on for months and months sometimes, but they just don't materialize. Every housing developer, you got 17 new housing developments moving forward. Almost all of those folks, their first point of contact was either City Hall, Judy's office, or our office, and we always collaborate together, get everybody on the same page and get people working together, and then bring them through the process. But I think we've got our game plan down well. I think we handle it well. I think we've had a wonderful, great partnership. You're now seeing the results of record construction year, record retail sales, record lodging revenues, $2.3 billion in new projects going forward. We don't have to talk about the what if anymore. We got to talk about the next level game, where we're going to take the community and how we're going to get there. And so we're putting all those strategic plans in place. We're working feverishly on things like childcare and transportation and everything that goes along with the emerging workforce that's coming in. Some of the immigration that will come with it, with those growing those different payrolls in town. And I think we've become the envy of a lot of communities because we chose to work together. And it takes all of us doing that. The city, the county, the Chamber Development Corporation, we have 660 business partners. We're a viable, healthy organization only because the city is such a strong partner in that. It takes good people to get things done. And we try to make sure the money you give us as part of that partnership gets well spent. And we have well-trained people, and we do our job, and we do it well, and we do it right. And so, once again, I'd ask you to support us to the level you did last year. It's critically important for us to maintain and continue to move everything forward. And just want to thank you again. It wasn't for you and those partnerships and getting the projects to not only the starting gate, but now getting a lot of them to the finish line. That's what it's all about. And we'll continue to do so as long as we have this strong alliance with the city. So be happy to answer any questions. I certainly could go in a lot more details, but you know the projects pretty well because you've dealt with them, a lot of them, from day one. They became public knowledge. So.
Do you have any questions? Ed?
Gary, thank you, Mr. Mayor. What's the chamber doing for vocational training?
Well, a lot of what we're doing is, for instance, one of the things, we continue to, obviously the community college has a presence on our board, as you know. And so gives us a chance to visit with them. And we're always emphasizing that their programs, the whole community college system about 25 years ago went to a different direction. They got away from some of the vocational training just as our high schools did. And now the pendulum's kind of swinging back the other way, and they're seeing the trades are where the future economy is, and then training people. One thing that we've become a part of, and the governor asked me to co-chair this effort, was an 18-county region, Mid-Plains Community College region. They divided Nebraska into 6 regions, and the footprint of every community college, which ours is rather large, stretches from Kansas to South Dakota, 18-county region. But it's to get everybody focusing together on what's important when it comes to housing and workforce and community planning, community capacity and community development. And it all comes back to, we're going to need to train tomorrow's workforce. How are we going to get additional assets into the community college system so we can put what they have now on steroids and get those programs, really blossoming and growing. And there are some areas that are a void also, that there some of the trades aren't getting trained in our region, and we want to make sure that it gets done. So this plan is being worked on by about 100 leaders from around the Mid-Plains region, and when we're all working together trying to emphasize that, we can you can make things happen in greater extent if you got numbers behind you.
So, and that's good. I'm glad to hear that. It seems like, I don't know, what's a public school doing now for vocational education? I know in the past that's been pretty short shrift, in my opinion. And I'm not sure that if the young people don't have an exposure to that in the high school or even in the lower grades, I would think it'd be kind of tough to get them involved in the Mid-Plains College because they don't have any experience with it.
They've had a business school partnership for some time. It took a little bump in the road when COVID hit, and everything. But there are mentorship things going on. They have career readiness programs now. So they're putting effort in it. It can always, we always encourage them to put more effort into it. But we all agree that you've got to plant the seed with a lot of these young kids, and some of them, are just they're 4-year college bound, that they're going to go do that thing. But we have a large percentage of the student population that kind of sometimes falls between the cracks, and if we can entice them to experience something, a lot of the job shadow programs, everything, because of our litigious society, as kids at certain ages, I was driving farm equipment when I was 12. I was milking cows when I was 9. But in today's world, you don't see those kids getting that training on a farm. And so the employers are handcuffed also because of the regulatory environment. And I'm not sure we're ever going to see some of that come back, but it can always be better, Ed. But those are conversations we constantly need to have with the school system as well.
Yeah, I would think, and you and I have had this discussion, outside of this room, but the public schools, I think, are critical in getting our young people involved in the trades. And for whatever reason, I've talked to some of the folks at the college, and some of our surrounding schools seem to be doing a better job than our North Platte public schools. And I'm not sure what the difference is, whether it's a difference in focus, whether it's just more of a rural mentality, and the children or young people are growing up where they get more hands-on experience. I'm not sure, but
I think there's a little bit of trend coming back to that. At least that's what we're being told and we're hearing. And they brought back or established an FFA program. So those kind of things, industrial art shops, those kind of things are always really important. Also, they're also expensive programs. So when schools are faced with cuts, sometimes those are the first to go, unfortunately. But the community college also added their health and science department with nursing programs. It's vocational also. And so now that they have the ability to have 2-year and 4-year degrees out of here, with partnership with UNO and a great partnership with Great Plains Health that, helps facilitate a lot of that. It takes partnerships to get anything done. And a lot of it just comes back to communication. And that's why I think our organization is so unique. We're not only a combined Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Corporation, which most communities still have them splintered, and they're they're doing their own thing, and it's somewhat confusing in the community who does what. You know, we try to give everybody the best bang for the buck and consolidate those efforts. But we also have the school, the college, the business community, city, county, everybody around the table discussing things. So we come up with that strategic plan on making things better in the community, and we're going to keep working hard to get that done.
Thank you.
Other questions? Donna?
Thank you. How is the new housing units? How is that coming along?
Well, you know how long it takes to go through the process, you know, so that's where we had to, you know, start. And then the infrastructure needs to get in. At the same time, they need to get their individual game plans going forward to housing. I'd say some of the micro TIF things, the rehab type programs are going to come aboard much sooner than some of the new housing, or the Chamber Development Corporation having the housing subdivision. We did it out of frustration. We weren't seeing the single family houses being built. And so we put the infrastructure in at our risk, and we've have 8 of those in. We'll eventually have 52. They want to get more in. So we went through the process of putting new streets, sewer, water in. We're going to try to keep ahead of that. But it's always painstakingly slow. It never gets done fast enough or quick enough. And we know we're going to have this part of the emerging workforce coming at us pretty rapidly this spring. I'd love to see a mobile home development here as well. And we were working with a really top-notch developer. We thought we're going to get it done. And the landowner got a little greedy on us. So that's always a challenge too with development, and costs keep going up, and interest rates have gone up, and their cost of doing it. So they're all analyzing where you did your part, you know, got the plans approved, the subdivisions are in place, and now it's a matter we just got to keep that inventory being built, because we're way behind where we should be. But we've been that way for quite a few years. And so we're playing come from behind game on that. We've got some upper floor housing in the downtown area going forward. And it's just, it's a wide range of everything we got to do from multifamily to single family. A lot of the emerging workforce are going to want to lease or rent when they first come to the community. You know, thanks to the efforts like our Shot in the Arm program, we've had close to almost 400 multi-unit housing come forward that we didn't have before. So that's certainly helping on the rental level. They seem to lease up quicker than they get built. And so we got some more of those coming forward. And when it comes to housing, it's just one of those things you can't start and stop. You got to consistently do it every year. And because that's the only way you're going to build your workforce. And I hear the frustration in dealing with all these other communities, like in this one Nebraska group. They're light years behind where we are, you know, and they're all frustrated by it. And it's the same common denominator. It's the housing and the workforce. And you need to know your inventory. You need to know where there's infill lots. You need to know where there's homes that can be rehabbed. And it comes back to the skilled labor, you know, like Ed talked about, you know, there's just not enough contractors out there. So we've had to recruit a lot from the outside to convince them that North Platte was worthy of their time and effort and investment. We've been fairly successful at doing that. So
do you think North Platte will be prepared come
do.
next spring?
Oh, you mean when the workforce comes?
Yeah.
Well, there's some things you just can't plan enough on,
Right.
you know, and we've heard that from other communities. At times you can't just be proactive, you got to be reactive, and we're going to have to deal with some of that. And, you know, it's the fear of the unknown, you know, but I do know if we don't address the housing part of it, we're going to lose the potential of those people being residents here, because they'll gravitate somewhere else and they'll commute here from somewhere else. And the more embracing we can be as a community, the more facilitation we can do on being housing prepared. But at least we're 550 units better than we were sitting here talking about it 5 years ago. And we just need to continue to escalate that and emphasize it, and to embrace those entrepreneurs that want to invest in our community.
Thank you.
Yeah, a quick update on your question about the programs at the college. I text some of the college leadership when you asked your question because I was curious, and the response is first year building construction is full, as well as first year diesel, HVAC, and electrical.
Good, thank you.
So what we're doing seems to be working, and for at least as far as college enrollment goes. Any other questions for Gary? Brad?
Thank you, Mayor. So your graphic up here doesn't have all the checks on it that we have here. This is fairly impressive.
does it?
I don't see them on there. Maybe
That's the
my
not
eyesight's
checked
failing
one.
me. Oh, there you go. All right. That was the great reveal. There we go. All right.
Sorry about that. Shame on me.
That is fairly impressive. So kudos for you guys for everything that you've been able to accomplish. One of the things that you have coming up that you're still working on is talent attraction. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you guys are doing for that? Because that's a pivotal piece, and it's also one of the more difficult ones.
It is, very much so. And we're talking a lot about that in that One Nebraska effort too, is the workforce, emerging workforce, talent acquisition. I think we have to do a better job of working with our major employers on the skills that they're looking for and so forth. And, the colleges that are producing the next generation, we got to make North Platte as attractive as we can. It used to be everybody competed for the jobs. Now the jobs compete for the talent because talented kids can go anywhere they want. Because there's just more jobs than there are people to go along. So the more that we're doing to make North Platte attractive, the new rec center is going to be huge. The trail system, the improvements in the parks that you're doing, having desirable newer housing is certainly upgraded. Having a cool downtown with cool venues, look at the mall, what that looked like 4 years ago, 28% occupancy and an old dinosaur that looked like it needed to be torn down, and look what it looks like today. It's about making everything more attractive so this young talent, we can recruit them here. I think the hospital does a phenomenal job of analyzing talent and has a game plan on going after specific talents, but it's a hard thing to wrap your arms around and to do it. And we're trying to do a lot of things better from a marketing standpoint as far as getting the word out there about North Platte, getting it on search engines, and positive headlines certainly help. But it'll be an ongoing strategy and challenge, and hopefully we'll see results, better jobs, attract better, more talented people too. So I think some of the emerging, they call it the bio economy, that a lot of that's going to emphasize agriculture, providing that bioenergy that maybe fossil fuels did in previous generations. Ethanol is an example of that. But there's all kinds of new fuel sources out there that agriculture is going to be directly involved in, and the governor's put a real emphasis on that. And I think those are the type of companies that we can attract to the rail park or to some of the other unique features here. And the mayor's seen some of our requests for proposals we're getting from some of the companies, and it's off the charts good. I mean, projects that could attract, a lot of engineers to the area. So power's now another challenge we weren't planning on facing. And so that's why we're looking at things like, you've heard a little bit of discussion now about nuclear, coming into the fold. I think we've got to embrace things like solar as well. Anything that's going to help bring more energy here gives us the ability to recruit those kind of companies that have huge power needs. And that power consumption or the power availability was never been an issue in the history of Nebraska. Now all of a sudden has become an issue because things like the cryptocurrency, the data processing centers, now artificial intelligence, it's eaten up so much of the capacity that was available that's going to be a challenge too. But there are some creative programs that maybe will help us get there, and we're working on some of those too. So it's all cutting edge stuff, and you've just got to be on top of all of it to make it work. So,
Interesting. Thank you.
yep. There's even one company that's interested in maybe burning municipal waste.
Potentially.
So there are a lot of creative things out there. So,
Other questions for Gary?
thank you again for everything.
Thanks.
Thanks, Gary.
Gary, you can take your sign. That's right. It was a nice reveal, though.
Missing one in here. This one.
Okay. Let's see. That was it for the organizations that we have present here tonight. Okay, moving on to discussion on the 24-25 City of North Platte budget. Lane, you have the floor.
So Mayor and Council, I'm happy to be able to present our proposed budget for 24-25 to you. First, I'd like to thank the council and the mayor for your continued support and your direction of this last year. We've had a very successful year in a number of ways, and I'd like to give a huge thank you to the department heads. Many of them are here behind me today, and the city team, our whole city team, because they've really done a great job of embracing ways to work together to save money, to look for strategies that will help us to get the most for our budget. And because of that, our revenues have been strong this year. And again, we're going to come in over $1 million under budget in our spending. So it's kudos to everyone behind me for making that possible. And I thank all of them for that. As well, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Dawn for doing all the hard stuff, putting all the state paperwork together, because that's not the fun stuff in my book. And so she gets to do all the fun stuff for the state that we have to do. So Dawn, thank you for that. Our proposed budget for 24-25 includes no increase in property tax asking amount in dollars. We're going to leave our dollar asking amount flat. And that will lead to a decrease in the city levy. I think you may have a handout in your packet showing our levy history. This slide or this page right here. You may have had a new one today from what I had last week. We got our final valuations from the county late Friday afternoon. Dawn's going to hand that out. And so based on that and based on our ask amount being flat, our levy will be 36.24 cents for the coming year. So that's down from last year of just over 40 cents in our levy. The largest pressures on our budget for this upcoming year are increases in our insurance premiums, both our health insurance and our property insurance. Health insurance had an increase of just a little over 5%, and our property insurance, as we had at the last meeting, in the 10+% range. So that's our biggest pressures on our budget. Of course, cost of goods that every business has going right now. And then wages, as you know, by state law, we have to have our wages comparable with the CIR. And so that's been taken into account with all of our different employee groups. One other thing that makes kind of an increase on our spending budget, even though it also increased our revenue, our tonnage is way up this year at the transfer station, which we then have to take to the landfill. Of course, we have to pay at the landfill. But that increased tonnage is also leading to increased revenues at the transfer station. And so that's kind of offsets there a little bit. So that's, in a nutshell, our budget. I have a little bit of a slide presentation, but before we do that, if you have any questions, I've talked with each of you a little bit one-on-one, but I'd sure answer some questions on the budget before I go to the slides.
I just have a comment. So 4 years ago, we were at 44-cent levy and we've dropped it 8 cents during the period that we have all of this stuff going on. And that goes to, it speaks volumes how the department heads have really done a great job with keeping their costs together and really banding together to get all this work done. So kudos to you guys, because that's fantastic. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad, for stealing my thunder. I still have a little thunder left, though. I want to thank you too. It's the levy's important, but people don't write a check for levy, and they write a check for dollars. And from what I'm understanding, our dollars are going to stay pretty much flat.
Correct.
And so I think this is a budget that our community can live with without a lot of grumbling. Everything else is going up in cost, and it's amazing, quite frankly, that you were you and your staff were able to keep a lid on things and operate even and come in for a lower request for funding for next year. So thank you. I agree with Brad. That's pretty impressive. Thank you. Thank you to all of you folks sitting out here. I mean, if it wasn't you guys working together, this wouldn't happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Just, and I took a little different take, and I agree 100% with you two guys. I looked at, when I came on the council, our percentages in the budgeted revenue, okay? And I just wanted to point out a shift in our sales tax revenue has increased, or excuse me, has increased by 2%, or $2+ million, while our property tax has decreased by that same 2%. So it's about a push in property tax, but over on our total budgeted revenue, it's decreased by the pie chart by 2%, where our sales tax has increased by that 2%. That's a shift in theory, basically, and that we're just shifting our monies to an overarching percent of the population who's coming in and spending money here, and our Lincoln County taxpayers have been paying a lesser percent in a budgeted revenue. So I just thought that was really interesting in a 4-year shift of theology. So theology? No, it's the other one.
How about taxation practice?
Taxation, that's a lot better. So
We have been fortunate because of the sales tax revenue, some shifts there, something that's, goes along with what Gary and a lot of different things have played into that, where sales tax revenues increased, and also some other places also. And, it's a combination of really watching our spending and then also being very fortunate on some of our revenue streams as well. And you all have played a part in helping us find some new revenue streams and helping us do some things to, on both sides, cut costs and to find those revenue streams. So thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. I just want to say to the department heads, you're doing a good job, and that's what we pay you for, so I'm glad you're doing it. And the other thing about the sales tax, does anybody remember when they passed the law that online shoppers had to pay sales tax? When did that go into effect? Because that may have played a big part in our sales tax increase.
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was right in that time frame.
Yeah, I was thinking about that same time, so that's been a good help.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions? Lane, go ahead and do your presentation.
I'm gonna try and fight technology now to see if I can get this going.
Angie's gonna help you out over here.
Don't forget the check.
There we go.
Okay. Don, do you remember the password? Come on.
Should be on a notepad somewhere.
Right.
Sticky notes
Sticky
stuck on the
note.
machine.
Okay, while Sean figures out the password,
5-minute break?
5-minute break. Please feel free to roam around if you're so inclined.
More of a comment on the budget. If you think about the inflation that we've experienced in the last couple of years, to be able to hold our budget flat is pretty impressive, actually, from the standpoint that everything that the city bought costs more. And so somehow we were able to improve our efficiency and keep our costs down. And that's something that government's typically not real good at. And I'm glad to see that.
Well, the world of to get through health insurance and insurance, and Lane brought those up a little bit, but huge headwinds in terms of a budget like this. And then you just look at what overall wage inflation's done at this point. If you adjust that garbage deal out, what the overall budget lane's a little under 4% in growth. That's pretty impressive with the amount of insurance alterations that have gone on.
I apologize for not having this ready to go. Okay. While we're waiting to show that, I will touch a little bit on the municipal light and water budgets. Different percentages of increase on those. That's mainly due to the same things that we have on the general side. We will be proposing no increases in rates for water, sewer, or sanitation. We will have a small increase that we'll propose in September for the electrical side. Those budgets generally show the same kind of increase that we have on the general side, in between a 3.5% and a 5%, depending on the department. And we are adding the new department for the industrial wastewater treatment plant. So you have those with your packet as well from today. I just wanted to bring that up just as a quick overview, but there's no major changes in those budgets. It's just this basically cost of things, so we don't have anything surprising on those. So just wanted to bring that out to the council as well.
Just a thought while we're on the subject, the promotions budget that what we just went through, I see it still comes out of the electric fund. Have you
Correct.
put any thought into moving that over into the general fund now that we're doing a little bit better on our reserves?
That is sure something as far as for the council we would be open to. It just that may be something as we make a shift either this year or the coming year, part of that.
I think we should take a look at that, considering the increase in cost with the electrical pieces and that we might want to shift that over.
Oh, that's different than what I have as well.
That's been something that has been kind of thought about as being undone, because that was a patch when times were more difficult. I think Don would remember the history. Would that have been about a 10-year ago patch change?
Well, historically speaking, that's generally where most of the reserve fund sat. So it made sense to do it now. But now that cost has changed, maybe it makes more sense to take a look at moving that someplace else.
That need to be on. Council, we have administration. Maybe I should try administration. There we go. Except on a different one.
Progress.
That'd be a little shift on our budget papers and everything, but we didn't come in quite as strong as I wanted to as far as our difference between revenues and expenses. So I didn't have that switch this year in the proposed budget, but it sure I'll take the council's direction on that because it makes some sense.
Okay.
So since Brad brought up that topic, and I'm glad you did, so as an example, if you and the guys in the council wanted to move the promotional budget into the city out of the electrical and make a straight reserve alteration
You didn't like
and wash out.
Well, that would help.
This is more important. I'm the master of having password problems, so I feel okay.
So 0. Okay.
Then P.
Seems to be about 4 o'clock on Friday.
Now it's locked up.
It's just trying to, it'll come back in a second. There you go. Okay.
So, okay. No, I think the 0 was the difference, so. Okay, we'll try that next time. Thanks.
Yep.
I'm not sure how much Dawn will have to change her paperwork that she's worked on, but I mean, it's something that's manageable.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Is that something, Ty, you're thinking
Well-
about for this year, or what are your thoughts?
No, I'm glad you brought it up. I even wondered if even at 50% as a step, but if you went straight to a targeted reserve deduction, I'm all for building reserves, but in terms of keeping the rest of the budget static, because what it would essence do is shift the reserve differential to the other side. I mean, that would be the simplistic result of that.
Right.
So the reserves are still being budgeted, it'd just be budgeted on electrical side instead of that. And so I mean, I don't want to mess up their processes, but it has been something we've talked about over the last couple of years, and it's something I'd like to see get back either into a split arrangement or back to 0 or back to the way it was 10 to 12 years ago.
And maybe it's something we leave it at this way this year, because we're kind of hitting our target for a reserve, what we want now, so that maybe next year it would make sense to move it over or to split it up or some kind.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'd be curious what Lane and Don feel about it. At some point, it'd be nice, council, to rip that Band-Aid off, I think, and and just make it happen. But Don could explain the effects of it probably a lot better than I can.
I don't think there'd be a lot of, I mean, we try to be somewhat conservative on our estimates, and so if our estimates come in a little bit better than what we were saying, that $200,000 swing is probably not a big deal, because our revenues hopefully will still be a little stronger, and then our expenditures maybe a little less than what we budgeted, but we should be close.
It definitely makes sense. The one thing, and I'm just not certain, I might not mind an opportunity just to do a little bit of research with respect to the type of payment that we would be making out of the general fund. It almost seems like there may have been some changes with the promotional aspect of that. I say may have, because I'm not crystal clear, but it might be something that if we could do a little bit of research just to make absolute certain, reclassify those to be taken out of the general versus the enterprise fund. Just want to make, just to cover some bases there, and timing wise on that, I would certainly want to ask for, Bill's assistance. Maybe just double checking, that would be my only hesitation.
There was something to that years ago that I remember us talking about. Yeah.
yeah, I'm okay with leaving it where it is this year and taking a look at it for next year, but something to keep at the forefront to think about.
Well, there's probably an argument that these activities, especially the Chamber DevCo, also are supporting your municipal utility, but yeah, I agree with you. I'm glad
And
you brought that up.
maybe that's a split we did, or, something to look at anyway.
You want to try my Netflix account?
You, come on, you don't remember it.
I don't know if he wants
It's on his chicken.
I never remember those either, Pete, but then I have to get the email sent to me with.
Click OK.
Okay, let's go to council. Capital U. Okay.
Probably don't read it into the microphone.
TRIUM. Okay.
It's enough, Jeff, show.
There we go.
I guess we can change it tomorrow.
Don't confuse them.
Some other program.
Kevin, if you're watching, we'll need to change that password.
So just a few slides. The first slide here on the left-hand side shows the valuation. That's the orange bars of the valuation over the last 10 years. And then the line coming across is our property tax ask, and that's in millions on the other side. And if you notice in 2023 to 2024, we had a slight decrease in our property tax ask. And then we, again, are showing that staying flat from 24 to 25 and just showing that on what the valuation's done with some investments and things in the city over the last few years. So I don't know, Mr. Mayor, did you want to add anything on that slide as far as just kind of showed relative how we've been trying to keep our tax ask the last few years flat or even decreased like we did last year?
We just like to slow this wow, I can't talk this morning or this afternoon.
It's this evening.
Excuse me. We like to show this slide this evening because it just shows you that we really are doing a really great job at keeping the ask, because it's really the tax ask is the amount of money. Kind of like, I think it was Ed that said earlier, it's dollars that matter here. Percentages are relative to what everyone else in the county decides to ask for. Our tax ask has gone down and is being flat this year. Hard to say what it will be next year, but we certainly won't see a big spike the other direction. Hopefully we'll continue in this pattern. So this is just an easy way to see that relative to what the property valuations are in the county, or excuse me, in the city.
And then this graph shows our city levy. As you see in 2014, it was just a little over 50 cents, and we're now at the by mid-range 35, 36 cent range of what we've done with the city levy over the last 10 years. For a long time, it stayed pretty flat, and we've been able to drive it down because of a number of factors over the last few years. Valuation increases for sure, and then just trying to keep our ask as at a level rate. We're thankful again for the sales tax. That it's, we had some years, sure some of you can remember when we had some years when our sales tax was flat. We don't have a lot of control over that, so to speak, and so we're very thankful for that. Here's budgeted versus actual expenditures. The blue line is our budgeted expenditures each year, and then the orange is showing where we're coming in under budget, and we're again projecting that for this current year. And that's a tribute again to all of our staff working hard to watch expenses and do that. One thing that I told the council the last 2 years, prior years, is we were really working to, since we were able to shift from just having maybe some fluff, if you will, in our budget and not having a cash reserve, where we've now gone to a cash reserve where we're getting a good, healthy cash reserve. We're trying to work some of that fluff out. So I estimate we'll be coming in closer each year to actual budgeted amount because we don't have that in there. We have that outside of it with the cash reserves, but we're still going to drive to keep our spending under the actual budget amount. This shows our two different graphs that I think were in your packet from last year and this year. If you can see that, it just is a percentage of the city of North Platte of what percentage of the property tax bill is attributed to the city of North Platte compared to the other entities. And last year, or in 22-23, city of North Platte was a little over 21.5% of your property tax bill. And this most current year we're in, 23-24, we're a little under 21%. And it'll be interesting to see what it does next year as the college piece has been taken out of there. As a state, we'll have that funding for the college piece. So percentages may change a little bit, but again, with our levy going down pretty good, it'll be interesting to see what that percentage actually does. We just wanted to show that side by side. And then this last slide just shows our budget revenues. Pete, you kind of alluded to that a little bit, where continue to do that shift to the sales tax if we can away from property tax. So there's some other revenues too, as far as state revenues, highway tax, our landfill, our transfer station, our sanitation increases in revenue there, and some other things, garbage collection. So just wanted to show a little bit again how we're continuing to change that pie graph a little bit, trying to get away from the property taxes and more to our other revenue sources that we have. I believe that's it on this presentation.
Anyone have any questions on those graphs? Okay,
Any questions on the budget?
Got a couple just for you, Lane.
go ahead, Lane, or Ty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So trying to follow the sanitation side through a little bit, and you'd mentioned that revenues and expenses were kind of coming up on both sides. So if you're looking at expenditures, you can follow that sanitation line that has about the 9% increase. On the revenue side, remind me how revenue comes into the sanitation side. So there's the garbage collection fee, but then there's other revenue coming into
The other one is
area,
the
right?
transfer station fee.
Okay.
Yes, and we're not asking for an increase on our garbage, our residential rates. We have every year we have a transfer station increase on the tonnage cost out there because we have a 7-year contract with J, which is our landfill, and that goes up 2.5% every year. So we have some built-in costs. And so when we look at what it costs to transport the garbage from here to Ogallala and things, that is where we probably need to work on getting our rates up a little bit on that. And so that's what we've been trying to increase more over the last few years is our tonnage rates, our half ton and then our full ton rates. And then also some things with our trees, tree waste and different things. You'll also notice that we have that line item where we have a new revenue source with our tree yard waste that we now have someone paying us to take that because there is some value there, as Ed mentioned, with some different things. And so that's where the revenue streams are on the sanitation.
So is there enough revenue planned on the revenue side? How does that compare to the 9% increase on the expenditure side? Is it coming up on the revenue side?
We try and leave, what I've been trying to do is keep the revenues above expenses on sanitation somewhere between 500,000 and 600,000 a year. And so we actually were a little over 700,000 last year because of some things that went well for us. This year, we're probably going to be closer to 500,000. So it's taken a little bit of a dip, but it's still within what I think is an acceptable range as far as difference between income or revenue and expenditures there.
Because if it's too much, we're charging too much. And that's,
Yes.
depending on how you look at it. Okay. Yeah. So I ran just some math on that adjustment. If you took the sanitation increase out of the budget on the expenditure side, just assuming that you're getting dollar for dollar revenue, the overall expenditure increase moves to 3.5%. So that actually skews the overall budget by more than a point. FYI. I was surprised when I took it down to percentage how much that skewed the overall expenditure budget. So
I appreciate that,
which is a
Ty.
good thing, yeah, because if the revenue is offsetting it on the other side, really the true overall budget increase is more like 3.5.
In the future, I'd like to look at if we get to where it makes financial sense. I'd like to have the sanitation department kind of taken out of the general fund and running it more as a separate standalone entity, kind of like we do the utility side, where then its revenues just cover its expenses and the things we need and not going into the general fund budget. But that probably in a year or two down the road, maybe.
My only other question was just real quick on public transit, trying to see that gap between, there's quite a bit of money that comes in from different sources on that. Is the amount that we're subsidizing somewhere in that 150 to 200,000 range? Is that close or?
You know, that's a good question, Ty. It's varied a little bit, and it's because they've had some, I hate to say it in a public forum, but they've had a little bit of trouble at the state level as far as some reimbursements. So we're a few months behind on reimbursements. And so I think once that catches up, we might be basically at that 10 to 15% range, but it's not showing right now in our actual receipted revenues and expenditures because they've been behind. They had some change in people in their office, and they have a very small staff that has to oversee all the public transits in the state, and so I think it's just getting caught up in that. And then also there are some things that we had to shift as far as our how we bill or how we account for it on the public transit, where we could get reimbursed for that. And that's partly why we had a little bit of shift in the public transit budget, because we had to before our shop would just cover everything. That's how we've always budgeted. The shop just covers all our fixing of our fleet. And to get reimbursed for that, we actually had to have the shop bill public transit and then basically pay the shop for that. And so it kind of skews those numbers a little bit. It's money just trading hands, but we had to show that differently. So it changed their budget a little bit.
Thank you.
Brad.
All right, I may be jumping ahead a little bit if we're going to keep going, but one of the things that we talked about before, going through your proposed new positions, and I agree with everything you have lined out here. It's, great stuff. One of the things I'd like to propose and to discuss is potentially having an auditor come on board with us. I've noticed as I'm going around town, with my receipts and buying stuff and whatnot, people are not charging the right prices for what they should be doing. And I don't think it's something nefarious. We just have a complex structure right now. It's not simple as just a sales tax. I mean, we have EEA, all the different TIFs and microTIFs, the half-cent increase, occupation tax, like all these different, levels of taxing. I think an auditor or even just the position or the threat of getting audited would get a lot of these people to educate themselves and to shore up their sales tax and to get trued up. And I think that position would pay for itself. And you could also use that to help Dawn out a little bit with some of the work she's doing, because everybody knows Dawn's massively overworked. So any help we can get her would be fantastic. So just wanted to throw it out as a discussion item, as something to think about.
I think Don and I could talk with some of our peers to see if any of them have those in cities similar where, we have the hotel tax, or maybe some of those cities that have like the food and beverage tax would be somewhat similar to our EA tax, where if they're doing anything like that, to just make sure the retailers are collecting as they should, because I believe, and Bill could help me on this, but there really isn't anything in our ordinances to give us any kind of a oversight line, but it'd be something that we could probably add into that.
Yeah, and it just depends on the ordinance that you're talking about, because EEA is different than the hotel occupation tax, and some of them provide for, say, like the city finance department to be able to go in and look at records. Some of them reference the city administrators. So those are things that aren't necessarily consistent throughout the city code either.
Thank you.
So wouldn't the Department of Revenue make sure that everybody's collecting the proper amount?
I mean, are they going to pay attention to our local, ordinances and things of that nature? Potentially, but I can tell you that people are getting it wrong. And again, I don't think it's anything nefarious. I think it's just so complex that mistakes are being made. So
I know sometimes they back the tax out of the purchase when they send it to the state rather than showing it on a receipt, possibly. I mean, that can be done too, so.
for sure. But I think if anytime you make a law and you don't look at it, people don't take it as seriously as laws that are paid attention to. So I feel like this is something that we're leaving money on the table by not having that position.
Thank you.
Other comments? Were you done with your list there, Brad, or Jay?
That's all I got. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Other comments or questions?
Well,
Oh, Ty, go
I
ahead.
didn't know if we were on open forum on all these or not.
Yeah,
So
so keep going. Yeah.
A few years ago, we had to tone down animal control. Then I know we were able to bring some resources back into it. Do you guys feel we have adequate resources at this point? Is it all going? Maybe that's a chief question.
Probably a chief question.
Yeah.
So.
But just for the record, I do care more about the citizens than the dogs, but I know a lot of my constituents care about the dogs too. So
So your question, do
are
have
we
enough
adequately
resources over
resourced on the animal control side at this point, Chief?
there? As long as we can keep it staffed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Other questions or concerns?
I would just encourage, if between now and when you actually have to have the budget hearing and pass the budget, if there's any questions or concerns, please let me know and we'll try and address it. But I thank the council for your direction and support over the last year, and I thank our department heads immensely, because it really is a team effort, and our staff is really dedicated to serving the citizens of North Platte, just as you are, and I think we do a bang up job at doing that with the resources we have, and we'll continue to look for ways to continue to improve that and just do the best we can. So I thank you all.
Okay. We have two more agenda items. Hard to believe. Discussion on allocation of ARPA funds. So you all may recall that during the pandemic, the city of North Platte, over the course of a couple of years, was awarded just slightly over $4 million in ARPA funds. And the council, as you know, has approved the use of a little bit of it over the last couple of years from time to time. And so we are required to attribute those amounts to something before the end of 2024. So this is Lane and some of the directors' thoughts on how we should attribute those amounts. And these are the projects that are either completed or underway. And I'll let Lane take over now.
All right. So yes, as the mayor said, the ARPA money was a little over $4.1 million total. Some of the things that we've used it for, as you'll recall, some of these replaced the library elevator for $107,000. We bought an additional cemetery columbarium with this money for $27,000 because that was a project that was in the works when COVID hit. The Bill Whitfield seating shade structure from this last spring, and that's a picture of that there in the corner. Also replacing the library air conditioning system. Currently, we've had about $196,000. I think approved about $220,000 for that. Most of those bills are in. There may be still a few more. I think we're going to come in under budget of that, but that's why it has the asterisk, because it's not quite complete. And then our website redesign, there should be a little bit more expense for that, but we went out for competitive bids on that, and I'm real happy with the results so far. We'll be having a rollout for the new website here next month. So but you can kind of go out and take a peek at it now if you want to, but it's looking really nice. So that's completed projects, or basically completed projects with the ARPA funds. Some approved projects that are not yet completed. Earlier this year, we had the Francis Bryan Street projects for about $270,000. That map showing the red is the stretch of Bryan, and then the blue is the stretch of Francis, so then go to Bryan. And the intersection in green for about $270,000. And then electric transformers, because of the COVID and those being placed so far on back order and their tremendous increase in costs, $2 million to go towards getting our inventory back up on our electric transformers. And some of those are ordered, but that's not completed projects yet.
Use your arrows.
There we go. One of the proposed projects we would like the council to consider tonight is some various gravel streets upgraded to concrete. This is just off Rodeo Road, if you can kind of see there. It's Branch, remember which streets we have laid out for that? Hayes from 12th to 14th, and I think Emery from 12th to 14th, and then 2 blocks of 13th Street is what we're talking. They're somewhat in some residential and some commercial areas to get some gravel off of Rodeo Road, and just connects to some streets. 14th Street's paved up there. Hayes to the north of these is paved, and so that's what we're throwing out there. We thought it was a good place to start some paving. Well, some things later on as far as some other gravel streets that we're going to continue to also look for, but that's what we wanted for council consideration tonight.
And Mark, you might recall you'd asked if we could use ARPA funds to pave streets, and it turns out we can. So that's what led to this decision.
When we're paving 9th Street, aren't we gonna make a connection across the canal to Highway 30 to facilitate access to?
Correct.
Yes. So can some of that money be used for that street to be paved and the bridge installed, or the culvert, or whatever you're gonna put in there?
Some of that we were gonna use just as a bonded project in our bond schedule, but, we could look at that as well, Ed.
I'd rather do that than borrow the money.
Well, we can, when we get ready to actually approve this, I mean, obviously we'll have to see what the amounts are, but that would mean paving at least one less block over there. So, I mean, we can decide which way to do it, so.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to see all these done.
Agreed.
Another one is the Cody Park parking lot that, is for the pickleball tennis, the rides, and also the swimming pool. That's a gravel lot right now. If anyone's been over there in the summertime, people just kind of park however they want to. And we feel that we can get more cars in there and it can serve all three of those areas with a paved parking lot with the lines and everything painted in there. So this is kind of a outline of that. Should make it a lot nicer for Cody Park and also less maintenance. Same with the gravel streets. Gravel streets take a tremendous amount of time to maintain because you have to, after every rainfall, you have to be grading them and keeping them up. And so they would cut down on some maintenance as far as that as well, both the gravel parking lot and the gravel streets. That's about a $550 million or $550,000 project for this parking lot.
These are gonna be the same size it is now.
It's a little bit bigger, I believe, Brad.
Good.
Help me out with this again. I know we're at Cody Park. Is this the pool?
This is the gravel lot north of the pool.
Okay. Okay.
You know, they
Yeah, where I
use
saw a kid doing donuts on Friday night.
it probably, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that place.
Hopefully that would be minimized and, but with the tennis and pickleball to the east, and then this is just adjacent to the rides to the northeast and the swimming pool would, I think a paved parking lot would really
For sure.
help all three of those attractions that we have. Council room AV replacement, as we know, we fight with our audio visual. It has been improved greatly with some tweaks that the IT department's made, but we were talking about new cameras and audio system for the council room and also to tie into the video system for people watching at home a lot better. One of the things we'd like to do, we're waiting for some bids, is our city property signs. The one on the left that says Centennial Park, our city staff over the years have made signs for basically all our properties. And then the sign on the right is the sign that we have on our public transit facility. And we'd like to transition to those more modern signs that take less work. Every couple of years, all those signs have to be taken apart and repainted and sanded and stuff that we have that we've made ourselves. We'd like to transition to these signs that are no maintenance and would be a uniform sign across all of our city properties. Estimating 185,000, but like I said, I don't have a bid on that yet, so I'm not exactly sure where that's going to come in at. And then we'd like phase one of city welcome signs. We'd like to replace our actually put in city welcome signs basically on the north and the south and the east and the west, our main locations. These are just some examples of signs from different cities, and then see where they come in at. We'd like to have maybe some video screens that would offer different information. It wouldn't be for advertisement, but different information for city events and different things and welcoming people into town. And then just really an explanation point on welcome to North Platte and who we are and bringing visitors in. That's before the end of the year, we have to have all those funds designated to actual projects. So that's why we bring that up tonight for your consideration. And then next, I don't know, Mr. Mayor, probably in the next month or two, we will actually come to the council for formal action on those items.
You had a question, Brett?
It has to be designated, not spent.
Correct. And then it has to be spent 26.
Okay.
So we'd have a short amount of time to get some of those projects done. Like those streets would be pretty quickly to turn that around and get that actually paved.
Any other questions on that presentation?
Ty? Maybe this ties back to the budget too a little bit, and since Chief Thompson's here, how are we with dispatch and volunteer fire departments? And I know that that's a topic right now I've had a couple people talk to me about as volunteer fire departments are having a harder time getting volunteers and keeping volunteers, that there's more challenges out in that arena. And so ARPA, you think what ARPA money came from was used for, causes me to think a little about that world. So Chief Thompson, would you mind giving us just a little bit of your opinion on are we geared up well to support the rural fire departments around us and the medical ambulance needs and how all that's going?
Yeah, Ty, I appreciate that. And we're geared up as well as we can be. I would tell you that recruitment retention for volunteer departments around us nationwide, we're not seeing big strides made. It's difficult, and there are a number of factors. Just where we are, I think as a society, the volunteerism component is not what it used to be. The demands that are being put on our first responders to leave employment, leave their homes, their families at all hours of the day and night, and do so again on a volunteer basis. Those demands become greater. The requirements that are being placed on these individuals in terms of education, those continue to increase, and I think it's really difficult to continue to just ask and ask and ask of those folks to do what they do voluntarily, and then in the same breath to say we're going to require even more of you in terms of your skill levels and your competencies and things. We've lost sight of the fact that volunteer fire service, EMS, has been functioning for hundreds of years and doing so well. It all started there in the volunteer realms, and they've done an amazing job doing what they do to serve their communities. Certainly, I say this all the time, when I'm talking to people, I tell them and I'm going to tell you, our folks here in North Platte, our career firefighters, paramedics, they're second to none. I'll stand by that, and I'm honored to be a part of that, so my hat's off to them. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't get this figured out across the state, is my bigger concern than across the country. But at the local level, if we don't get something figured out here for these little villages, little communities, all of the paramedicine in the world that we provide, and our guys provide a lot of stuff. If these residents aren't getting the very basic level of care in the first few minutes of whatever it is that they're experiencing, all the drugs in the world, all the physicians in the world aren't going to be able to fix what happens after that. We've got to figure this out. A lot of things go into play there. Certainly, we work with these agencies closely. A lot of studies being done out there, a lot of funds being made available to assist with some of this stuff. Communications is one of our big things with our area departments. We can be from you to me on a fire ground and not communicate with another department. That's a problem. How we got there, I don't have a clue, because it shouldn't be that hard. They're releasing some money to help rectify that situation from the state level. And some departments are taking advantage of it. Some departments aren't taking advantage of it. Ambulance funds to purchase ambulances, they just did. We purchased an ambulance with the assistance of some of those dollars made available through Department of Health and Human Services. They're saying there's probably going to be another round of that because departments did not take advantage of it. Again, I don't know what the answer there or the problem there. I do. Even these little villages are operating on very, very small margins. So I get even a $75,000 grant on a $400,000 ambulance. where do we make up the difference? I get all of that. So we're just going to have to be more creative as we move forward. But as far as at a local level, we are in a good position to do most of the things we need to do and to try and assist these other departments as they work on their programs and try and find better ways of delivering service. We've got to be careful. We're delivering more service now than we ever have. Our footprint's getting bigger and bigger. I've told you all before, we're going towards Mullen, Thedford. That's not good care that we're providing at that point in time. It's not fair to anybody, but it is what it is. We'll do our best to continue to provide that level of service, but we're gonna have to figure out something. And it's not just here. It's got to the folks in higher places at the state level, Department of Health, are gonna have to buy in here a little bit too, and try and help us overcome some of this and maybe provide a little more incentive without quite the demands on these folks, because they do an amazing job of what they do, and we can't do without them. So again, we're good. I envision that some of these things we're gonna get through them. We will get through them. It's just going to be a matter of how, and how the sooner the better. Obviously, I will say this: North Platte Fire, we're fully staffed. That is because you folks see the importance of that, the services we provide. Our citizens see the importance of that. But I will tell you as well, with all the, as we talked tonight, we heard from Gary and all, with all the growth we're seeing, we're going to have some changes in our staffing levels. We don't hire someone and put them on the streets 3 months from now. That's a 2 or 3 year process to put someone out there that really is well seasoned. So we're going to be looking at those things, or we're going to be coming to you and asking you for those types of things. So just so we're all on the same page there. But I appreciate the question, Ty, and the opportunity to.
Well, I guess what I would say, as we're thinking through our ARPA designations, I think making sure we're as compatible as we can be for these communities that are going to have really limited resources, and that we've got the dispatch technology we need is important, because it's going to be, I don't know how, if you're out in one of the small villages in our county, which again is not what we're here to represent the taxpayers, but they're still our county partners and your local, that's going to be a big challenge.
It is.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's about people.
Yeah.
Period. And there's expense involved with that. We know that. So, yeah.
Oh, I appreciate the update on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, which is discussion on CDBG infrastructure. Kevin?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Kevin Krieger, Administrative Assistant here for the city. Lane asked me to address this with you guys this evening. The CDBG program, also known as the Community Development Block Grant, the state currently has this open. The city has applied in the last several years, for example, under the infrastructure program for 9th Street. We were not successful during that round, but it is open again with a deadline of next month. During Lane's last presentation there, he talked about some dirt streets up on off of Rodeo Road. So one of the areas of consideration for the infrastructure would be to continue several of the streets north of there, getting away a little bit from Rodeo Road, so that we're more meeting the guidelines of the program of being rural in character. So a couple of the areas to consider that I would like to bring up in front of the council next month would be West 15th Street between North Hayes Avenue and North Custer Avenue. And continuing to, so the project is contiguous, would be at North Custer Avenue between 15th and West 16th Street. The project would be approximate to meet state requirements would be a 70-30. So this city would be around the $175,000 price range if we were so awarded this project, which there's no guarantee that we would get it. but we should know if we do apply for this program late October, early November, give or take, based on previous announcements. This is one of probably 3 areas under the CDBG program that we may be considering in the next couple months. And one of them, probably you guys will probably ask me more about tomorrow night with one of the agenda items.
Any questions for Kevin?
Can you give me those streets again, please? I
A
wasn't quick
couple of the
enough.
areas that are considered West 15th Street between North Hayes Avenue and North Custer Avenue, and continuing from North Custer Avenue between 15th and 16th.
Thank you. And you said there's 2 other locations you guys are considering?
Those were the main ones considered, mainly because of the zoning of an area being commercial or industrial, so the state that does not meet those requirements. Part of the ARPA money is kind of in those areas, so this would, if we were so fortunate, we're able to be awarded this, it would kind of continue the project that you guys would consider under the ARPA funding.
We felt also that, if we were so awarded the 2 projects together, there'd be some economies of scale by being able to do them basically as one and having mobilization and everything. And so there might be some other cost savings, and it just made sense to continue in those areas.
So obviously there's a lot more dirt streets in this city. A couple of the criteria that you have to look at is low to moderate income. That area, based on the 5-year average, which the data is outdated because it's still from 2022, 18 to 2022. That's one of our highest areas for low to moderate income based on the graphs. There's a couple areas a little bit higher, but that is the area with our highest concentration. Also then with, so you make an argument for low to moderate income, but you could also make the argument that we have a lot of dirt streets in that area, so that we're making an improvement. So it's going to be potentially be a little bit easier to articulate that as we would write the grant.
Any other questions for Kevin? Thank you, Kevin. Just to quickly review the budget calendar, which you've all seen. Tomorrow, August 20th, of course, we have our regular city council meeting at 5:30, but at 4:30, we'll have a budget work session with the council if necessary. We'll get to that in a second. Then, of course, we'll have a regular city council meeting. And then a few things happen with publishing the budget. And then on Tuesday, September 3rd, which would be the next council meeting, at 6:30 p.m., we would pause our regular meeting and do a special council meeting to hold a public hearing on the proposed budget and the proposed levy as well. And that would be, on September 10th, the special council meeting to hold public hearing on proposed levy and budget. So we'll be seeing a lot of each other the next few weeks. Okay, that is our typical process, but I just wanted to get that out in front. And then the budget process, of course, would be theoretically over on Tuesday the 24th when the budget is sent to the state auditor. And then, as you all are aware, our fiscal year ends on September 30th, which is a Monday this year. Okay.
So will we have a regular council meeting on the 17th of September?
Not
Okay.
the 17th. We're on the 3rd and then on the 10th.
So we'll have our
Regular
17th
council.
is a regular council.
Right.
day.
Oh,
We'll have
excuse
that
me.
as
I'm
well.
sorry.
Yes.
So we'll have that.
Yes, I apologize. Yes, you're right.
10th is the outlier, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, now that I've thoroughly confused everyone, we will decide. We could be meeting tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. for the budget work session with the council. Does anybody feel like we need to have that meeting to answer more questions? I'm certainly happy to do so. I'm not getting any head nods.
I would make a, we can
No,
make a
no,
motion.
no.
I don't think we need to be there. No, no.
I don't think so.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's
Thanks,
why I'm just asking your general opinion. Thank you.
You're a theologian.
Okay. We will cancel the budget work session for tomorrow then at 4:30. We will have our regular council meeting at 5:30. And then we will have our regular council meeting again on September 3rd and of course our special public hearing as well on September 3rd. If any of the public has comments on the budget. We have reached the end of our agenda. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow at 5:30.